I think most of executive MBA students, what they try to do is they're looking for some kind of change of some sort, either progress within the company in where they're working, or becoming entrepreneurs. In the case of TRIUM, there's a very high portion of people who really want to become entrepreneur, or already are entrepreneur and want to move into another industry. So they're looking for some change. It's not so much like the full-time MBAs and the MBAs that students do when they are in their 20s, which is more a curriculum thing. I think the executive MBA is more trying to get like a push that allows you to make a step to feel safer in doing this step forward in your career. I think this is the thinking behind. So I was working in a multinational company, in a big corporation with billions of euros of revenue and tens of thousands of employees. And I had already progressed pretty well in that company with several career steps within that company into middle and upper middle management positions. This was a requirement for the kind of programs that I was looking for. In my personal case, the reason why I didn't do an MBA before is because of lack of money, lack of time. The way I see it, the full-time MBA at the time seemed to me to have a stronger impact than a part-time or an executive MBA. I thought that these part-time or executive MBAs would require less effort and less dedication. I later found out that not the contrary, but at least it's the same effort than a full-time MBA, probably. I haven't done the full-time MBA, so I can't compare, but it was pretty tough. So in my case, the reason was that I couldn't do the MBA before. I would have wanted to do an MBA at 26, 27, then I tried again at 31, 32. I didn't have the means to do it. Until I made my own career. And then when you do your own career and you are successful to a certain extent, then you can afford it. And also your situation allows you to do it. These modular executive MBAs, I would call them modular, allow you really to continue working. You just have to reach an agreement with the organization in which you're working. And also in the case of TRIUM, a very high portion of the participants are entrepreneurs themselves already at the point when they decide to embark. So my situation, I was in this multinational company. I wanted to move from middle management to top management, and I saw the MBA as a way to facilitate that move, that change. Once you embark in such a project, you put a lot of pressure on yourself, which can then turn into a problem because you expect this change to happen. And it's not always easy, and the MBA it doesn't give you any guarantees of any change happening. It's going to be you who's going to do that change. The MBA is maybe giving you some more information, opening your mind, providing you with some tools, for sure, with some interesting connections and new friendships, which is probably the strongest value that you take out of the MBA. And maybe you gain some self-confidence. I mean, not maybe, for sure you gain self-confidence and you dare to do more. But at the end, you have to make that change happen yourself. And you don't have any superpowers after having an MBA. So it's not always easy. And not everyone has been progressing necessarily upwards after the MBA. When I started looking at the MBAs, as I told you, I looked at them in my 20s and then in my early 30s. And then when I was 35, 36, I started to look into the executive MBAs, which again, they are comfortable because they take you out of work 4 or 5 weeks or 6 weeks a year during a 2 years period which is something that you can normally negotiate with your company. You sacrifice holidays or working hours. Somehow you achieve that. But I have to repeat, it takes a lot of time every week away, so it really has an impact on your work capacity, and more especially on your family if you have family. So I really recommend to think it through well before embarking in such a project. Now, coming to this consortium MBAs, this word is interesting. I always refer to them as alliance MBA, but it's the same. Consortium alliance is probably a synonym. I didn't know that they existed, in fact. So in 2007. 6-7, when I started to look into them, I looked into rankings. It's quite typical to look into rankings. I think many people look into rankings. One of the standards for rankings is the Financial Times ranking, because the Financial Times ranking does not rank schools; it ranks programs. It's very interesting because other rankings rank schools, and as long as you look into school rankings, like the Business Week rankings or the Economist ranking, other rankings, then you see the schools, and then you start to compare schools. And is this a research-based school, or is this a teaching school? Where is it based? Is it Anglo-Saxon? Is it European? Is it Asian? And so forth. And these kind of things. Is it more finance focused, or is it more, consultancy focused, or business or corporation focused? And these kind of comparisons that you do, but then I saw in the Financial Times ranking, which was at the time probably the most prestigious and respected one, I saw these consortium MBAs for the first time. I didn't know there were not so many as today at the time, 2006, 2007. There was the EMBA Global with Columbia and London Business School, and then there was the Kellogg with the Hong Kong University, and then TRIUM. So I applied to 2 or 3 executive MBAs of just one school. One in the US, one in Switzerland, and one in London. For me, it was clear that I was not going to do an MBA in my home country, Spain. That was very clear. I wanted to be as global as possible. I was already working in Italy at the time. After having been in Germany working, I also have German. So. But I wanted something as global as possible, so I wanted this Anglo-Saxon touch, and I also wanted the Asian. Asia was already in the rise, this pivot to Asia. Now it's much clearer, but at the time it was not that clear, but it was already clear. Also the Goldman Sachs report about the BRICS was out and all that, and everyone was talking about this shifting to Asia and so forth. So I looked into these. The EMBA Global, I looked into this Kellogg Hong Kong University, and I also looked into some specific school-based executive MBAs. Wharton didn't have an executive MBA, but a part-time MBA. I looked into that one. I looked into Chicago GSB, as it was called at the time, later Booth. And then I looked into IMD. Some of those schools selected, the nice thing, one of these attractive ways in which these high ranking, because I was looking into the top 5 at the time only. I wanted the best. They do it very intelligently, because they try to put it in a way as if they select you as a student. So you have to go through a selection process. It's like an application for a job, and they put very high barriers. So this was a way to test the school, because depending on what they expect from you, the length of the essays, how many essays, about which topics, how do they present themselves, how much time do they put into the interviews with you, are they really listening to you? When you go to these meetings where they present the program to prospective students, how much time do they dedicate to you personally? And by far the highest quality was TRIUM at the time. And TRIUM is HEC, London School of Economics, and New York Stern School of Business. At the time, they were ranked 3. Then the year I embarked, they went to rank 2 at the Financial Times ranking, and then later on to 1, and then 3, 4, 5, 3, 4. They are in the top 5 since foundation, which was 2001. So at the beginning it didn't look attractive because I was more attracted to these big brands like the Chicago, GSB, Wharton, right, IMD in Switzerland, London Business School, INSEAD in France, these big brands, maybe Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. But the quality of this supposed selection process, which for me was a selection process of the school, made the difference for me. Also, this global approach and the geopolitical or political economy part differentiated the TRIUM program very much from the others, with this LSE side of it, which is something that has always, in my personal case, always attracted me very much because I'm a fan of geopolitics. But also it has a real impact on business. It is so important in business decisions, also for medium-sized enterprises, not only for global corporations. It's most, if not all, of the important things that affect our life are global in nature, are not anymore local in nature. Be it climate change, be it finance, crime, immigration is also a global phenomenon. Most of the things are global. Each institution has a specialty. You go to Kellogg because of marketing, right? You go into IMD because they have this more corporation-focused approach. You go to London or to New York Stern or Columbia because of finance, right? You go to HEC because of marketing, right? Every school has a specialty. So the fact of having all those three together provides you at least with the feeling that you have the best of each, plus a much bigger network of alumni, which is also very interesting. Especially these executive MBAs, many people look for a strong network. So I have the TRIUM network, and I have the network of HEC, of London School of Economics, and of New York University Stern. So that is a little bit the summary of my decision-making process. This international exposure attracted me very much. That you can have several weeks and modules in New York City, and then you can go to Shanghai, and then you are in Paris, then you are in Chennai in India. So this is very attractive, and you're also exposed to business leaders there. They have very interesting speakers, which you don't normally have access to. So it's not only the faculty. It's also these additional speakers, these external speakers, which are extremely high profile, very nice, very, very interesting, really sometimes with a very strong impact. Those people who, when they speak, this remains in your head for a long time, and you use it again and again in your working life. It's fascinating. So it's just more open, it's more diverse. Also this intercultural thing, because I've always been a fan of this cultural factor, which is strongly underestimated by most people who don't move much far from the place where they've been born. But there is a minority of people, a very small minority, a couple of percentage people who are more the global loony type, and who are very interested in this different mental models and how diverse they are. And the difference between mental models is huge. And it is critical for business to understand this, because it really impacts business very strongly, the different mental models. So I looked at the most global possible. It's like press. When I look into press, I'm not interested in the Barcelona press or I'm interested in the most global possible press, which is difficult to find. There's The Economist, maybe Financial Times again, but China is not in there, or at least not in there the way China would like to be in there. So there are little global things, right? But businesses and finance is global, and most of the challenges that you're going to face in your professional life, if you want to progress in any industry, be it finance or manufacturing or consulting, is almost always global. There is no such thing anymore as, and at the time this was clear already. And so therefore this global exposure also getting used. At the time I learned to use these video conferences, for example, which I was not using before. I got to know Skype at the time, which was the normal one at the time. Also this waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to make this, group work, because we had to make a group work between Japanese and Brazilian members. So this international exposure, this open-minded. I mean, this is not the kind of programs for people who want to find an echo chamber. If what you're looking for is an echo chamber, this is not the place for you. This will be a place where you will find so diverse viewpoints on everything. Certainly on politics, but also on economics, on life, on leisure, on everything, on food. So it's extremely interesting, and I felt like a fish in the sea, very, very free, and very. It was a fascinating time. We implemented what we called Module 7. Module 7, TRIUM Module 7 is a module organized by the students, where we go back to school, and we have speakers, and we have these workshops, and then we have this nice dinner, because also these executive MBAs, these modular ones, they have a lot of leisure activities, which are there to connect the students. Again, the conversations between the different, because most of the people, they are selected in a way so you have quite high profile people, which have been actually wildly successful already, because that's how they assure the position in the ranking. It's people who are going to be successful anyway. I mean, if they do the MBA or not, is not the factor. They are going to be successful anyways. So these conversations are extremely interesting, and most professors went to them, and the external speakers also came to those conversations. So you had the quality of those conversations and those cocktail receptions or dinner parties were so high that I miss them since then. I will never have that again. It was a fascinating time. I was very much attracted by the brands of those schools, because HEC is a very strong brand, and New York Stern certainly too, and LSE for the reasons I said before, not so much in the business world, but from a political science and social sciences viewpoint, it's one of the top institutions worldwide. So I was very attracted by those brands, and I thought that these communities I would connect to, and those schools would be the major focus. But the fact is that during the MBA experience and since then, the real community is the TRIUM community. It's a small community, in fact, not very big, and maybe 1,000 or over 1,000 members, which is not so much. It is now, it will be 20 years old. The program will be 20 years old this year, in fact. Yes, I feel a member of the TRIUM community. And in fact, the TRIUM community, and I don't know if this happens with these other consortium or alliance programs. I don't know if that happens there. They tell us, I mean people in the MBA community, they tell us that the TRIUM community is very connected, very strongly connected. We really treat each other as best friends. I mean, any TRIUMer, I'm not, for example, at LinkedIn, I'm normally not an open networker. If it's TRIUM, I accept right away. If a TRIUMer comes to Barcelona, in my current hometown, I will go and I will take them around, And then we have these Module 7s, which is every year, and every other TRIUMer can attend. I helped to organize the last one in Barcelona. So a very strong community, and then you ask for help, you ask for advice. You look for business partners, you look for board members, you look for maybe customers also. So, and there's this trust, because it's a kind of a filter, if you like. It's a filter that gives you confidence that certain elements are guaranteed. Certain elements are guaranteed. I was much more junior in terms of my career than most of the TRIUM members, and also in the selection process they told me that to be careful if I was really sure if I wanted to join TRIUM, because I would be surrounded by people like my boss or like the boss of my boss, and if I'm really feeling okay with that fact, right? Because average age was 40 or 41, I was 36 at the time. 15 years work experience in very executive roles, quite high-profile people. You keep this connection, especially with my class. We have a WhatsApp group, we have a Facebook group just of our class. We exchange ideas and we talk about U.S. elections, and we talk about Alexei Navalny and what do you think about, and all global stuff, things that in the normal friendship environment of your local place no one talks about. Because they keep talking about the local things, right? And you have this exposure, it's just beautiful. I will answer from my experience, but this is different from person to person, okay? In my the way I experienced it at the beginning, it seemed very, very expensive. I got it financed 50% by the company, and the rest I financed myself. So I took a loan to finance my portion, and I was worried about the return on the investment very much at the beginning when I started the program. So much so that I started a workshop, because this is a nice thing about TRIUM. I guess in other programs it's the same. You are very free to start all kinds of ventures or ideas inside the program. So I started one which was focused on this, on the return on investment, and I pulled a group together and we started a workshop to see how we can improve the program so that we guarantee this return on investment. Maybe some career advice team or some other aspects which go to career management, and they came up with some things. Some were more interesting, some less interesting. And at the time I was feeling that the program was not doing enough. To guarantee the return on the investment. Okay, because I was my feeling at the time during the program was just academic input, and then this networking. But they are in other industries and other things. I'm not going to have my career step thanks to that. And then they were, in my case, I was a corporate guy, which is a minority because most are finance or entrepreneurs in this program. And they were, and the capstone project, as they call them now, it was the term project at the time, which is this is also something that characterizes TRIUM. Many of those capstone projects turn into real successful businesses, as opposed to other programs where it's just academic work that you deliver, and then you get a grade, and there it stays. So it's very interesting, and there are several companies that came out of TRIUM and which are very successful, of all kinds. So at the time I was feeling this return of investment was not being taken care of enough, and I started this group. And some things came out of that group, and some reaction came from the program. The program is very reactive to students' initiatives. They understand the student as a customer clearly, so that is very clear. But then it turned out totally different. I amortized that in the MBA just 1 or 1.5 years after finishing. I basically doubled my income. And it went so good. I mean, no problems to pay back very quickly the student's loan, and I mean, it was like a turbo charge to my career. I mean, and I was already quite successful, in fact. But so in my case, despite the 2008 in Spain, it lasted until 2012 crisis. But I went to South Korea and did other things. So it really it was a mind. I considered myself already global before embarking into the MBA, but afterwards it became a much clearer progression into a global experience with this 4 years in Asia. But I think this must be different from from case to case. But these top 5 ranked programs, normally, again, what they do, they select people who most of them are going to be successful anyways. I mean, I don't know if this sounds strange, and I was not aware, or I didn't feel confident of my own future success at the time. I didn't feel it, but I experienced it afterwards. So, and I don't know if it has to do with the program, or if it has to do with I was going to be successful anyways, or maybe I've just been lucky. In fact, I don't know. But the return on investment was clearly there, not only in terms of monetary, especially in terms of all the other things, that we've been talking about. Unfortunately, I have to repeat one thing that I said already, because there's all these very nice positive sides, but the impact on your life, it's a life, I mean, this is not just a saying, a life-changing experience. It really is a life-changing experience, but on both sides of the coin. Okay, so it has a very strong impact on your professional life and on your private life. It really takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. It's not easy. It's very challenging. It's not a spa. It's a gym. Okay, and if you're not used to going to the gym, I stopped studying at 24, and I went back to school at 27. So you're not academically tuned. If you want to take, because it would be a pity to do one of those MBAs and just let it pass like a train and not participate in it and not take all the juice out of it, right? Would be a pity, and that would be the main advice. If you do this, do it for real. Don't let it pass like something that is superficial. Take the maximum out of it. It's really worthwhile. But take this into consideration. Talk to your family, talk to your partner, talk to your company if you're employed, or talk to your business partners if you're an entrepreneur, before doing this, and think it through, because it's going to have a very strong impact, and things are not going to be the same, neither during the program, neither afterwards.